Alright, we've brought the 403 back into the garage just because the weather outside's starting to look like it's a little bit dismal, so we could be getting a little bit of rain this afternoon. We'll start taking off some more of these vacuum hoses and the fuel hoses. We'll see what else we can get off this engine. So, the fuel pump looks too nice. I think it's been replaced. As much as I'd like to say it's the original one, I doubt it. The fittings on here all seem pretty new, contrasted to how dismal and rusted everything else looks. It just makes me think that someone's tried to get this running and maybe they've given up for some reason. So I'm curious to see what we're going to discover underneath the valve covers and under the heads. And once we get a few more of these vacuum lines off, we'll have a better idea. It's no surprise that the heater core's bypassed. The heater core always goes on the Firebird, so alright, we'll get these off. These look like they're going to be pretty tough to get off. They look pretty cooked. Looks like it's, okay, see there you go. Someone's put some Celastic or some glue inside it. Maybe they had a leak, but yeah, this hose is destroyed. Alright, let's have a look around the back. Yeah, the fittings on all this one seem pretty toast. So it's obviously sprung a leak, the heater core's packed it up, the floor's rusted out, no shock there. And they've bypassed the heater. And it's not too hard to do. All you need to do is disconnect the heater hoses coming from the heater core that poke out of the engine bay, and then throw this new hose on top. Just go straight from the back of the block to the front. You don't need much hose at all. Whereas if you wanted to replace a heater core on a Firebird, what a nightmare of a job. Very involved. Inner guard has to come out, 2 bolts from the inside of the firewall. Then you have to go back inside the car, massage out a few more bolts from the inside. Start wiggling all the accessories off, the vacuum hoses off, all the air conditioning ducts out. Then if you're lucky, you'll be able to get the heater box out. Once the heater box is out, you might as well rebuild it. That's the point when you get a new heater core, and try putting that all back in. Okay, this rubber heater hose is really fused on me. Like, they've put Celastic glue around the base of both sides. I don't know why they would do that unless it was leaking, but man, when does a heater hose normally leak? Maybe the fittings really rusted out at the top of the water pump. See, that's something else interesting to note about the 403 Oldsmobile. If you have an air conditioning model 403, the heater hose routing is a bit different, and the water pump inlet is also slightly different. Because when you have the air conditioning one, you'll see that the brackets mount to the front of the water pump in a different manner. So sometimes when you go online, it will say non-AC or AC. So next time you're looking to get a 403 water pump, make sure you're getting the exact spec one for your motor. That's an Allen key. Someone has shoved an Allen key into the vacuum line for some reason. I don't know why. That's coming off this vacuum tree at the front of the engine. We're going to be very gentle with those because we don't want to break any of these vacuum trees. They're a pain in the ass to find replacements because you can never seem to find the exact one you need. Oh, they're coming off pretty easy. Alright, see, this is one, oh yeah, alright. I reckon these are the original vacuum hoses. I don't know if you can really see that. I'm going to try and gently take this off so I can give you a better look. These vacuum hoses, they've got a green line, these green markings on them. Generally, that's something that was done on all the original vacuum lines. On late 70s, 403s and 400 Pontiacs, because the vacuum tree diagrams were color-coded, so that's how you know if they're the right length or the right application. Interesting. Alright, we've got original vacuum hoses on there. These T-pieces, yeah, they got little GM logos on them. They might be original too. Alright, just being very careful not to break them. If they're a bit stuck, I might put just a touch of oil in there just to loosen them up a bit. Oh, that one's in there. Don't want to snap anything. A bit more. No, alright, I'm going to leave that to the side for now. I can feel it a little bit stress cracking, so we don't want to let that get any worse. Alright, let's have a closer look at some of these vacuum ports. Yeah, I reckon I can get the socket on that one. I reckon, you know what? For the vacuum ports, the temperature sensors and all that stuff, I'm going to wait until the intake is completely off, then try to remove those, just in case you strip or break anything, because again, those are things you really don't want to break. They don't really go bad unless they're super rusted out and finished, and you just don't want to lose them. Look at that. That check valve came off really easy, and that's an original component too. You need that check valve. Put that in the little tray for now so it doesn't go missing. This valve, this one's really interesting. I've never seen one of these before. SOL, Sol, Dist, distributor. It's got a part number on it and everything. I've never seen one of these valves before. Maybe this is a non-AC thing. I have never seen one of these, but it's got a part number, 495279. That sounds original. All right, I'm gonna... Ooh, it's starting to disintegrate. The plastic's very weak. Some guy's rotary just drove past, but yeah, the plastic's really weak on this. I don't know what this is meant to be, but I'm gonna put that to the side for that. That could be another check valve. All right. Let's pop some more of the vacuum lines off here. Another vacuum tree, and then see, check this out. This vacuum hose, this one's got red markings on it. Some of them would have yellow, some of them would have green, blue, actually I don't think there was any white ones, but normally those 4 colours, and that kind of denotes that that's kind of the original line that was meant to be on top of that engine. This one's also come off pretty easy. A lot of vacuum lines. On the California ones, heaps of vacuum lines, heaps of emissions shit trawling through them. Okay. Okay, a bit more. A couple of those big cleans. Alright, I'm going to try to get this vacuum hose, this heater hose off, and then I think the manifold will come off. There we go. Yeah, okay, yeah, that is very grimy. I don't know why that was so heavily glued down. See, check how tough this one is. There we go, finally broke it off. Come on. Almost. Get in there still, not really. Just like pulling at test lines. There we go. Yeah, I don't know why that was glued on there. Alright, I think that one's going in the bin. We wouldn't reuse this hose anyway. Don't like that orangey colour. Off she goes. Alright. Alright, you got a bit more vacuum hose here. See, I don't know why this here, like, so if you look at this here, this is meant to be the PCV breather that goes straight to the air cleaner. So, I don't know why they've put this fitting on the end here. That can go in the bin. Okay, this here is that little PCV elbow that goes from the breather on the valve cover and then into the air cleaner. This, I'll sand down, I'll blast, maybe coat it with something. I think they're meant to be bare, or there's a little bit of blue on there too. That might have been corporate blue. But we'll keep that. We'll get that blasted and coated and put back on there. This breather is toast. Good thing is, you can get this PCV breather here brand new. It's not a big deal. But yeah, this one's really bad. It's very loose, it's very rusted. The rubber is split all the way through, so I think the breathers on both sides are totally gone. I don't know, what's next? Let's take this fuel pump fitting off. Or this fuel, no, oil pressure sensor. That's what I think this is, yeah. I reckon we should, oh no, actually, that looks a bit grimy, that looks a bit rusty. That doesn't look like it's going to move at all, so we'll move it up a little bit. Yeah, no, that should come off pretty easily once we've got some lube in there. You can see where it's threaded, but these can spin out, these can kind of fall apart, so you don't want to take too many risks on those ones. These kinds of lines, the fuel lines, the oil pressure lines, and the AIR injection lines, they normally strip out pretty easily. So if you can get a little bit of oil on them, it'll make your life a lot easier. These ones especially, because they normally cook into the heads, and they're a pain in the ass to remove. Just a touch of WD. Alright, see, you know what, this AIR line looks really good. Normally most of the ones I've seen, they're very rusted out, because they were just stainless steel. They didn't really turn out too good after a couple of years cooking on top of a 6.6 litre V8. So, we'll have a look. We'll soften these ones up, we'll clean up the top of the manifold a little bit more, and we'll see what's next. The top of the manifold's still a bit of a mess. More grime and crap has still kind of been coming up as I've been removing more bolts. So I'm going to give another quick shop vac and clean up the top end and see what we're going to tackle next. Okay, so the OPS was spinning a little bit and I was putting a bit too much pressure on it, so I could sense it kind of bending out. But what I've done is I put the 916 on the bottom sensor and then I put the 716 on that top fitting there, soaked in a little bit of WD, and there we go. That's come off pretty nicely. Actually, to be honest, that fitting looks pretty good. I reckon we're still going to be able to use it. And even this OPS might still be good. It looks to be in good nick. And you know what? They're a little bit expensive for what they cost new. So if you can save on a good one there, you might as well. Then again, if you want the gauges to read accurately, you probably want a fresh one in there, right? But keep in mind, these sensors can be different depending on what gauge cluster your Firebird came with factory. Mine W50 over here did come with a rally gauge equipment, so it has the same gauge cluster as a Trans Am. I think the other ones, like the base model Firebirds, just have a warning light. They don't actually have a full oil pressure gauge. So just keep in mind, you might have a different sensor depending on what kind of options your 403 came with. I think it's time to tackle the water neck filler. So, interestingly enough, there's a stud on this side that holds this little bolt here, which I think is something to do specifically with the smog pump ones. I don't think this is on my other 403s. So that little stud is also there to kind of support that upper bracket that held on to that smog pump. Whereas normally I think they just have a regular bolt like that. I think that's a 9/16, maybe it's a half. Yeah, that looks like a 1/2 inch. All right, we'll take these brass fittings off over here and see if they'll come off gently, or if we're gonna have to be a bit more forceful. All right, let's start taking off this rubber bridge hose here. Seems a bit silly to have all of these clamps stacked on top of just this one section of rubber that sits above the water pump there. But see, this is another interesting thing to note. Sometime between 78 and 79, or I guess maybe sometime within 78, these water filler necks changed in design. So you'll notice that this one here has a pretty steep straight angle, whereas most of the ones from 1979, they come down at close to a 45-degree angle, which to me kind of says this is probably the original fitting, being that this car, I think it was built late 1977, so it was probably before the changeover, which would mean this is the correct earlier style fitting. Okay, this is pretty rusted on. All right, that should be coming off now. Yep, great. This one's gonna have to go quite a way, because that rubber hose there looks really swollen. So now the engine stand's just kind of bouncing around because there is so much weight lifted off these engines. Oh yeah, that's going to be pretty tricky. All right, let's try to take this filter housing off first. I'll take that nut off the top there. Kind of kept it there for storage just so I didn't lose it. But we'll leave it there because we know what's coming off now. The oil fill tubes, they're pretty tricky to remove. You kind of need a very good set of vice grips and a hammer to start banging them out. But I reckon this will come out pretty easily with a socket. Get a little bit of WD on it. Put some on this rubber neck as well because we don't want this out. I'm going to see if I can preserve this upper housing because this style I don't think is reproduced. It is pretty rusted as you can see, but sanded down and smoothed out, I think it'll be all right because inside it's not cracked and to the point where like a rubber heater hose won't attach to it properly. I think that'll still fit nicely. I'm going to say that is, yeah, probably 1/2 inch. Let's have a look. Oh, looks good to me. Oh, that's a bit tight. Oh, yeah, come on. I'm going to put some hammer on this one. Oh, there we go. That's not good. Uh-oh. That's not good. We were going to have one. We had to have one strip bolt, so this is where the fun begins. Alright, that stud does look like 1/2 inch too. See, if it wasn't the EGR port, it was going to be that. What do we reckon about this stud? Not too much resistance. Let's see if this is stripped as well. No, this one's come out a lot smoother. Maybe I put too much grunt on that one because that bolt came straight off. That's a shame. At least the fitting will come out and we can drill and tap that hole afterwards once the intake is off. Man, that's the stuff you really got to worry about. These cast iron intakes on top of the 403, you're definitely going to lose a couple of bolts. Easily. They just cook and rust in. Man, this stud's in there too. I think we're coming out there. There we go. Not too bad. There we go. That one's alright. That one wasn't too bad. Can we do it by hand? Not really. Still very tough. A lot more to go. Come on, man. Almost there. Can feel it coming. And I think we're good. Let's see if this fitting's coming off. Oh, yeah. Wait till you see the thermostat under there. Oh, jeez. Okay. Oh, boy. Chocolate milkshake. And that thermostat is KFC. That thing is Kentucky Fried Colonel. But you know what? It stinks too, man. But otherwise, this top post fitting here for the water pump, that looks pretty good. I think if we sand this down and smooth it out a little bit, where that goes onto the radiator hose, I could probably clean up pretty good. And we might be able to use it. We've got the nice original part number there. That might come out okay. I can't even tell if there was a gasket here. Oh, dude, look at that bolt. That bolt was mulched. Yeah, I think there was no chance that bolt was going to come out without a fight. Okay, well, water pump fitting's out. Now I think it's time to start playing with all these other bolts on top of the manifold. This double-ended stud, we know that that one went onto this side of the water pump gallery, so I'm going to hold on to this. Even though we're probably not going to run the smog equipment, I'm just going to run it there for the sake of saying, hey, it's still there, those parts are on there. Alright, let's get started on to the next section. I think we're going to try to start taking out these vacuum trees and the temperature sensor without damaging them. So let's give it a try. Alright, we're going to start by spritzing a little bit more WD-40 around the base of them. Just because, just like the water pump one, well, just like anything on top of the 403 manifold, these can really get caked in there. And you know what? Sometimes they put that sealant tape around them as well. So then that's a real mission to get these off. Alright, they're nice and lubricated. I reckon we got a shot. Alright. What size do you reckon that is? That's a bigger size. I'm going to try a 5/8. Nope, bigger than that still. Hopefully the 11/16 is going to do it, because that's all we got. No. Still no with the 11/16. Oh, you're kidding me. I've got a bigger spanner. Alright, wrench it is. I don't like using the wrenches though. Unless I try the 19mm. No, doesn't like the 19 either. Alright. Wrench it is. Hate using the wrenches, but oh well. Oh yeah, no, I'm not feeling anything budge at all. Nothing. Let's try this one. Oh, there she goes. And that one's coming out nicely. It's bringing out half the Solastic for the valve covers with it. Man, you can tell this thing must have had a rough rebuild at one point, because I think they just made the valve cover gaskets out of Solastic. Hey, this fitting's coming out really nice. The brass underneath looks in great shape. Let's have a look. Man, that one's in good nick. I've just sludged it a bit in WD-40. That's going to preserve it. But man, that one's in great condition. Done. Bit of a wash and that one's going back on. Beautiful. Let's try the temperature sensor. Different size. Okay. Alright, I'm going to hammer it in now. Nothing. I reckon I'm going to throw the socket on this one, but still. Nothing. Not 1 millimeter of a budge. No, nothing. Alright, let's get the socket set on that one. Do we feel like 3/4 inch? Nope. I've got a 24mm lying around. Oh yeah, that's a nice tight fit. Let's see if we can break this sucker. Oh, it doesn't sit on there too nicely because of that pin at the top. Let's give it a whack. Oh yeah, baby, we got it. Ah, softened it up with an adjustable. Coming off this easy now. Mate, look at that. That thing looks pristine too. Bit of a scrub with a wire brush. I reckon this sender will work nicely. It's a nice thick brass one, probably works better than the Repros. Alright, if we got those two out, I reckon we've still got a chance at getting this one out. I'm going to give it another try. Maybe it's the angle of attack. Let's switch to the other side. Oh yeah! That's the stuff, baby. Wait, is OJ still alive? I don't know. Anyway. Whew, one break and we're out of there, man. Cool. Look at that one. That one's in excellent condition too. There's a couple of marks on it up there. We'll clean up the bottom section of that filament. But otherwise, all the vacuum ports are in excellent shape. That's going to get a really good bath in WD-40, bit of degreaser, maybe some brake cleaner, a little bit with the toothbrush, and you know what, that's going straight back on the engine when it's time for a rebuild. Well, I don't think there's too much more to take off the top of the manifold. I guess there's that thermostat, but I don't really know how that comes out. I was just going to try, see, easy as that. Oh, geez, look how surprisingly nice it is underneath. On top, it's Krispy Kreme. Yeah, I don't think that's getting reused, so 3-pointer. Completely missed the bin. But we'll pretend that went in. All right, bugger it. Let's take the manifold off. So we know this screw is going to be a problem. Well, this bolt's going to be a problem. I'll put a little bit of WD on it, and then we've got 6 on the top. So if you've got an Oldsmobile V8, I'm pretty sure all the manifolds have the same pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This one here is always a pain in the ass, and this one here, well, one of the two down the bottom here near this water sensor thing, once they've got too much moisture in them, they rust up and they really lock in there. So we'll give it a good old WD spray. The gasket's a bit compromised there, so maybe that'll sneak in underneath. We'll just a touch of WD on all of them. This bracket here, I don't know what this is for. I've never seen this on top of a 403 before, because normally you've got the cruise control module here, but this is not a cruise control car, and my cruise control 403s that do have the module here don't have this bracket. I'm not familiar with those. I don't know if they're meant to be on there, but I don't think I've ever seen one with that before. All right, that one I think we'll be able to get a bit more in. Oh, that one's already out. What size do you reckon those are? I reckon 1/2 inch. Yeah, we'll give it 1/2, right? All right. Let's pop that out of there. Try break them loose first, and if they come out loosey-goose, then I think we're in business, and we get to see what's underneath this manifold. Because keep in mind, my expectations... Oh, sorry, that's not a 1/2 inch. That looks like a 9/16. All right, 9/16. Here we go. Oh, yeah, they're tough. All right. Oh, there we go. Hopefully no more broken bolts like this water pump fitting. That feels good. That one's out. And this one here. Yeah, that wasn't bad at all. Bit tough, but still coming. Probably because of all the grime and slime on that one. Let's try this one here. Oh yeah, easy peasy. All right. How do I feel about this one? Oh, didn't even have to try it. Alright, now we're entering the EGR danger zone. I'm worried about this one. Nope. Oh no, did that break? No, we're good. I was like, that came off too easy. I thought that one was cooked. Okay, that one's broken. What have we got over here? Another danger zone one. Oh, I heard a crack. No, okay, it's all good. I was like, oh man, those are the ones that normally break. So we're doing good. All right, this one here, should be no problems. Ooh, yeah, no problems here. So far, we're about 3/4 of the way there. How many more we've got to go? All right, let's try this one. This one I don't have high hopes about either, because this one was the most rusted one. Let me get a better position here. And mate, that was the easiest one. Unless the bolt snapped. Who am I kidding? Those came out super easy. I was expecting those to be a total nightmare to remove. Alrighty. See, the thing is, with a lot of the 403s, with everything being cast iron and the amount of heat they generate, a lot of the bolts can sometimes get really cooked in there. Nah, these are coming out easy. Or did I speak too soon? Nah, easy peasy. Living greasy. Well, since I'm just going to be sitting here arbitrarily removing bolts, we might as well talk a little bit more about the details on the 403. See, some of the bigger criticisms the 403 gets is contrasted to, well, a lot of the other drivelines that were featured in the Firebird. It was some of the slower quarter-mile times. But you need to remember, the 403 Oldsmobile was never made with a manual transmission. It never received a manual pilot bearing. So in every application, the 403 Oldsmobile always received like a 3-speed automatic, like the Turbo 400 or most commonly the Turbo 350. So at the time, it was delegated to the 3-speed automatic in most performance applications, like in the sense of talking about like the Firebird or some of the bigger Oldsmobile performance two-door cars. But I mean, like saying performance like that, it's like, yeah, okay, it was the late 70s, but you were still meant to get something that was a little bit quick off the mark. Now, most of the time, the 403 in its standard configuration came with a 2.41 rear gear ratio. That's a pretty slow ratio, like it's economy gears. And that was normally in the Series 2 carrier as well. So it was the smaller diff carrier where you couldn't swap to something like a 373. But if you had a WS6 Trans Am, the gear ratio got bumped up to something like 2.73 in most applications. So there was a couple of little quirks. Let's say, for example, you had a 1978 Trans Am with the 403 Oldsmobile engine. That only came in 2 states, the high altitude states or California. If you had a WS6 403 Trans Am in Cali, you got a 3.23 rear gear ratio, which was one of the tallest ratios I think you could get for the 403 when it was in the Trans Am. Actually, I think for every model it was featured in general, because I think the big body Oldsmobiles didn't get very tall ratios. The only other exception to that is the high altitude ones, which got 308 if you had the WS6 handling package. So most of the time they had pretty average rear diff ratios and they had pretty average transmission choices. So I think every one of these bolts is out. And in 1979 as well, the standard ratio was 2.41. With a WS6 Trans Am, you got 2.73. But if you had a 1979 Trans Am or Formula with no air conditioning and the WS6 handling package, you could opt for 323. But you had to specifically request that ratio. So most of the time, the standard 403 had like taxi rear gears in a really weak ratio in a relatively small diff contrasted to everything else. So when people say, oh, the quarter mile times were terrible, man, it's going into a single exhaust. Like, what do you expect? But there's really not too much you need to do to completely wake these things up. I mean, like, as you can probably tell, removing all of this EGR equipment is going to drastically wake this motor up. Like, it is going to be breathing so much more freely, so much more effectively, and it's not going to be wasting energy. It's not going to be wasting power on stuff like the pulley having parasitic power loss from the stupid smog pump. You know, the exhaust ports aren't going to be blocked up. It's going to be a much more effective engine. Another thing to kind of consider is it's not a big block engine. People will say, it was the worst of the big blocks, but this isn't a big block V8. This is actually a small block Oldsmobile engine. In fact, I think it's diametrically identical to the Oldsmobile 350. Externally, if you were to look at the two of them, they'd be the exact same. And in the example of a 1977 Firebird, like if you ordered the 5.7 litre engine in California in 1977 only, you got the 350 Oldsmobile in the Firebird. And that had all the same bracketry and all of the same assembly information as the 403. So externally, diametry, it's the same engine. Like people say, oh, it's not identical to the 350, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, it is. So it's not a big block V8 like most would think. So if you hear someone say, oh, I got the big block 403 Trans Am, it's probably Camaro in it. So, all right. I think we've got most of these intake bolts out. I want to get these washers with them too. Sometimes they get a little bit crusty and they get a little bit stuck to the top of the manifold, but I should be able to pull those out. If not, we'll just tap them out with the flathead and then we'll take this manifold off. Okay, I think we've cracked it. I heard a little bit of a pop. Where's that hammer gone? Bloody phone always dies every time the going gets good. Yeah, okay, I think it's off. Hold on. Feels a bit stuck from the front. Upsy daisy. Alright, I think we're ready for action. And underneath intake number 1. I forgot these things weigh 3 bloody tons. Yeah. Hey, that actually doesn't look too bad. Oh my god, there's a problem with a bloody 403 odds. The intake weighs 2 tons. Jesus Christ. Bloody everything. When people say get an aftermarket aluminium intake, that's why. Mate, this valley pan looks pretty good. Well, this looks alright. I don't know about you guys, but this looks pretty good to me. Like, I've pulled some 403s apart that just were filled to the brim with junk inside the ports. Like, totally clogged up. Full of crap. But, you know, this gallery looks pretty nice. This looks relatively new. There you go, that little piece of elastic's going down the dipstick tube. I mean the dizzy tube. Where's that flathead? What have we got? Oh, pop goes the weasel. It's come off nice and easily. Mate, those main galleries are mint. You can eat off this sucker. This thing's doing alright. Look, there was 30 kilos of elastic in there, but it looks like it did the job. Because aside from all the rust that's now just dropped in here, these lifter galleries all look really, really good. That lifter looks like it's popped out. No, okay. No, actually, yeah. It looked awesome inside. Alright, let me get a vacuum and clean all this up. I don't want any of this crap going down any of the galleries, so I better get some vacuum in there and get all that crap out.